Hi, I'm Lisa Larson. I'm a licensed psychologist and life coach in the state of California. And I'd like to talk to you today about declaring independence from negative self-talk. A lot of people engage in this kind of behavior and they don't even realize how it's holding them back from really engaging meaningfully in life, enjoying their relationships, succeeding with confidence in their field of business. And I don't want that for you. So I want to help you overcome negative self-talk. It's important to know that it's not something that just happens overnight. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I'll just say nice things about myself. Well, that's nice, and it's good to affirm yourself. But if you don't believe the positive affirmations that you're saying about yourself, then you're probably not going to get very far because you have a pretty good BS filter, and you can tell when you're not telling yourself the truth. So the statements that you say that you replace your negative self-statements with should be not only more positive and helpful, but also accurate and realistic, something that you actually can believe and embrace for the long term. So sometimes people engage in negative self-talk when they're depressed or anxious, but a lot of us just have taken in a lot of garbage from our society and the people around us. I'd say most of what we know about ourselves or what we think about ourselves is gathered from other sources outside of who we are. And that's just the nature of how we form our self-opinion. And so it's important to kind of discern, is that accurate? Is it helpful? Is it realistic? What were the circumstances under which we took that information in about ourselves? It takes discipline and it takes a lot of work at first to change our self-statements, but over time I think it's well worth it, and it gets easier and easier. And just a good rule of thumb to start out with is, if you would not say this statement that you're telling yourself about someone else or to someone else, for example, a loved one, a family member, a spouse, a friend, then why are you saying it to yourself? And a lot of times people do that because they have much higher and unrealistic expectations of themselves, almost grandiose, superhuman expectations that cannot be satisfied. And so if that's you, this video should be able to help you. So there are 4 steps to this process, and the first step is to observe very well the circumstances under which you engage in negative self-talk, and also how it feels to hear those things about yourself. So let's start out with what triggers the self-talk and the self-criticism. Sometimes we're more vulnerable to picking on ourselves than others. Sometimes if we're shy, meeting someone we don't know for the first time can be really excruciatingly painful or difficult because we're so busy expecting other people to judge us the way we judge ourselves. Sometimes it can be because we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, as they say in AA and other 12-step groups. So it's important to realize and recognize when you are more vulnerable to self-criticism. Also, when you do say negative things to yourself, what does it feel like, emotionally and physically? What body sensations do you notice? What emotions come up? Is it fear, insecurity? Is it anger at yourself? Do you punish yourself for making mistakes, even little ones? And what body language and what posture do you have when you're engaging in this self-talk? If it's hard to discern this, just on your own. You can look in a mirror and say the statement out loud to yourself and see what your body does. Chances are you kind of crumple up and get small, or you might look down more. So it's important to recognize all these effects that this negative self-statement has on you. Also, if you find it difficult, please don't judge yourself for the learning process. I've never seen anyone really learn well when they're busy shaming themselves. And so if you can learn not to judge yourself, that would be awesome. Also, and I know that's hard if you're already self-criticizing, but just realize that you're learning your body, you're learning your interior, and that takes time and it takes effort, and you're not going to be perfect the first time out, or maybe ever. So you're just doing your best, as we all are, and just so accept that. Then you also want to see whether other people notice these things about you. Sometimes we have gotten so used to what we say to ourselves that it seems normal. It doesn't even register as a problem. But other people might say, gosh, you are so down on yourself. What's up with that? And so when they say that, try not to be defensive about it, because it's valuable information. These people are saying something to you about it because they care about you and they love you and they don't want to see you shame yourself. So please use that as more learning material rather than another thing to add to your backpack of self-criticism. Next, you want to explore the statement. Explore the context, explore the circumstances under which you adopted this statement about yourself, and also the accuracy and realism of it. So let's start out with the context. Under what circumstances did you develop this belief about yourself? Was it something that was said to you once or repeatedly by someone else? If it was, do you trust that person's judgment of you? Do you trust their ability to accurately assess people without projecting onto them their own disowned parts of themselves? Because a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't feel very good about themselves, and rather than own that and work on it themselves, as we're trying to do here, they will project it out onto other people and say, oh, you're this or you're that. So if the person who said this negative statement to you does that, then you know not to trust what they have to say. Another factor is, when was it said? Was it said in a state of anger or frustration or during a fight? Because sometimes we let loose things that we kind of regret later because it was said so viciously or bluntly. And so unfortunately, it's like a snapshot in time when this person said this to you, if it came from someone else. And you're holding on to it for all eternity, lugging it around like a huge boulder. So that is not healthy, obviously. So you have to kind of examine all these factors, whether it's accurate, what is the evidence for it, what is the evidence against it. We don't usually think about that when we think about ourselves, do we? We usually just kind of take it in, hook, line, and sinker, and we don't kind of think about, is this true? Is this accurate? And if it is true, what are we basing that assertion on? So once you determine, like, maybe there's aspects of it that are true and maybe there are aspects of it that are false, then we want to come up with something that's more accurate and realistic. So I'll use laziness as an example, because a lot of us are told when we're children and we're not doing our homework that we're lazy. And we can very easily hold on to that for the rest of our lives and think, oh, I'm just a lazy person, even though we might actually be hardworking now as adults or as teenagers. So that is important to see. Is this just a snapshot of me in time, or is this something that really has lingered with me and that I actually do act like? So in this process, we are discerning the wheat from the chaff. We're determining what is useful and what is just useless. So just another rule of thumb is, if something is said with really nasty packaging, like insults and character assassination, what I mean by that is, you're this way and you will always be this way, and it just does not serve any purpose other than to shame and degrade people and demean people. So if you're someone who tends to talk like that to yourself or others, that's not helpful. Whatever you don't like about that person that you're trying to change, you're just making them feel horrible about themselves, and they're not going to change because they're going to protect their ego and shut you out eventually, hopefully. So in this next step, you want to kind of see, maybe there's a grain of truth in what this person is saying, and maybe that's part of what makes it hurt so much, or in what you've said about yourself. And so it's good to recognize, is this coming from a place of unrealistic standards that other people are putting on me or that I'm putting on myself? Is it coming from a person that I think is trustworthy and whose opinion I respect? And is it something about me that I can also recognize, yes, I can be lazy sometimes, or yes, I can be critical, or whatever. And yes, that is actually something that I want to change about myself. I never really liked that, and now I want to change it. Then you can take that criticism and convert it into a commitment. But first you have to strip away all the shame-based statements, everything about it that is nasty and hurtful, all the insults, all the negativity that really is not necessary. When you say something about someone with love, you can honestly appraise, like, this is a quality that I wish you would change, but at the same time, I love the whole of you, and I see this as just something to work on and not something that makes you tainted and horrible. So you can do that for yourself as well and decide, yes, I'm going to change my laziness. I'm going to say, from now on, I'm going to commit myself 100% to a project, and if it's important to me, I'm really going to be fully responsible and see it through to its end. Then that piece of lead has now become gold because it's increased your personal growth. And finally, the last stage is the most fun part, and that's where you get to play with your negative self-talk, and you can actually decide to make it positive as well. Not just positive in a kind of fantasy-based way, but something that's actually based on what you know about yourself. So there are 5 things that I recommend. One is reframing. If you see something in yourself like laziness, you can also see the upside of it. You can see how it will be useful to you. So maybe you see, okay, I do want to work a little harder, but I don't want to lose the positive qualities of my so-called laziness. I want to still be laid back. I still want to be fun to be around. I still want to have lower blood sugar than someone with a type A personality. All those things are positive about laziness. and you shouldn't have to lose them just because you decide to commit to being harder working. You can also reclaim. So maybe that's not something you even care about changing. Maybe that's something that you decided, hey, you know, that's part of what makes me me. That is part of my quirky charm and my uniqueness. And so I'm going to embrace that and take that in as part of who I am. You can also accept things about yourself that you can't change. For example, I'll never be an NBA star because, well, look at me, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm 5'5". I can try to be more athletic and I can try to be as fit as possible, but I'll probably never tower over other people and play basketball professionally. I accept that about myself. And there are probably things about you that you don't have a lot of control over. That's just who you are. And so accepting those things takes a lot less effort than trying to fight them or deny them or suppress them, etc. When you can love and accept all of yourself, you have so much more freedom and so much more energy. You can also rejoice in who you are. There's so much more to you than meets the eye, and there are probably positive aspects of yourself and talents and abilities that you haven't even discovered yet. As long as you're alive, you have the opportunity to see all of you, not just the negative. So make it a habit of catching yourself doing something right and really seeing the positive in your personality and your existence. And for all those people who are waiting on the sidelines, hoping for someone to notice how great you are, make you a star, guess what? You're gonna be holding your breath for a long time if you want someone else to notice that about you. Maybe people compliment you already and you shut it out because you're so used to seeing yourself as negative. But if people aren't complimenting you, you can do that for yourself. You don't have to depend on other people for your self-esteem. You can actually notice the good things in yourself. Celebrate your accomplishments and your unique abilities and who you are. And I encourage you to do that because you need to see the totality of who you are, not just all the mistakes you made, all the failings, all the etc. You need to love and embrace everything in you. And through that, you will have so much more success and happiness and fulfillment. And there's nothing wrong with being in love in a true, genuine way, not seeing yourself as better than other people, but also not seeing yourself as worse than other people. Just seeing who you are and loving that completely. I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you need more help in this regard, please call me at 661-233-6771. Have a great Independence Day and start working on this right away, and you will see such positive results.